When the first B-29 Superfortress appeared over Tokyo in November 1944, Japanese air defense commanders faced a crisis that shattered every assumption about homeland security. The massive silver bomber cruised at 30,000 feet, higher than Japanese fighters could effectively operate. Its pressurized cabin, remote-controlled guns, and advanced radar represented technology Japan couldn't match. Then came the firebombing, then the mining campaign, then precision strikes destroying irreplaceable factories, finally, atomic annihilation. The B-29 didn't just bomb Japan. It systematically dismantled every pillar supporting Japanese resistance until surrender became the only rational choice. Japanese home defense doctrine in 1944 assumed bombers would attack at 20,000 to 25,000 feet, where interceptors could engage effectively and anti-aircraft artillery could reach targets. The B-29 rendered these assumptions obsolete by operating routinely at 31,000 feet, altitudes where Japanese fighters struggled to climb, engines lost power in thin air, and pilots suffered hypoxia even with oxygen equipment that frequently malfunctioned, creating defensive situations where radar operators could track approaching bombers, but interceptors physically couldn't reach them before bombs fell. The first major B-29 raid on Tokyo's Nakajima aircraft plant on November 24, 1944, exposed Japanese defensive inadequacy with brutal clarity. Over 100 superfortresses attacked from altitudes Japanese fighters could barely achieve. Interceptor pilots pushed their aircraft to absolute service ceilings where controls became mushy, engines overheated dangerously, and sustained flight was impossible, forcing them to watch helplessly as American formations bombed targets while flying in a realm Japanese aviation couldn't contest, demonstrating technological superiority so profound that courage and skill became irrelevant against equipment gaps measured in thousands of feet. Anti-aircraft fire proved equally futile. Japanese heavy flak topped out around 27,000 feet under ideal conditions. Shells burst harmlessly below B-29 formations in spectacular but ineffective displays. Gunners fired thousands of rounds without scoring hits, wasting ammunition Japan couldn't replace while providing psychological reassurance to civilians who could see defensive fire, but didn't understand it was reaching nowhere near the actual targets, creating illusions of active defense that masked complete defensive failure. The psychological impact on both defenders and civilians was immediate. Japanese military had promised the homeland was impregnable. American bombers appeared and attacked with impunity. Air raid sirens wailed, civilians sheltered, fighters scrambled, guns fired. And nothing stopped the silver giants that cruised above it all, dropping bombs with methodical precision before disappearing toward the Pacific, leaving destruction and the terrifying realization that Japan possessed no effective defense. But altitude immunity was just the beginning of Japan's nightmare. Japanese engineers who examined crashed B-29 wreckage found technology so advanced it seemed like examining artifacts from a more developed civilization. The pressurized cabin system maintained sea-level atmospheric conditions at 30,000 feet, allowing American crews to operate in comfort, while Japanese pilots wore bulky oxygen masks and heated suits. This wasn't just comfort. It was operational capability, eliminating the altitude-induced fatigue, hypoxia, and cold that degraded Japanese pilot performance on long intercept missions, giving B-29 crews decisive advantages in alertness and endurance that Japanese aviation medicine couldn't overcome with existing technology. The remote-controlled defensive armament stunned Japanese weapons engineers. Instead of manually aimed guns, the B-29 featured computerized fire control, where gunners operated from pressurized stations using periscopic sights. The General Electric system calculated lead angles, deflection, and ballistics automatically, while allowing any gunner to control multiple turret positions, concentrating defensive fire against threats with coordination. Japanese manually aimed systems couldn't achieve, and the 1250 caliber machine guns plus 20mm tail cannon created overlapping fields of fire that shredded approaching Japanese fighters. The AN/APQ-13 radar bombing system gave B-29's all-weather capability that eliminated weather as defensive ally. When clouds obscured visual targets, American bombardiers attacked through overcast using radar to identify and bomb through conditions that would have forced Japanese bombers to abort missions. This technology transformed operational planning. B-29 missions launched regardless of weather forecasts because clouds no longer provided protection, eliminating the seasonal and meteorological windows Japanese defense planning depended on and forcing constant alert regardless of visibility conditions. Manufacturing quality found in captured components revealed industrial capacity gaps. Japanese factories couldn't bridge. Engine cylinder tolerances measured in 10,000ths of an inch, sophisticated hydraulic systems, complex electrical wiring. Every aspect demonstrated precision Japanese wartime production couldn't replicate. One captured radar, 3350 engine, showed machining quality that Japanese metallurgists confirmed their industry couldn't achieve, even with unlimited time and resources, revealing that the technology gap wasn't merely current, but fundamental. Reflecting years of American industrial development, Japanese couldn't compress into emergency crash programs. Yet, the engineering marvel had a fatal weakness that took months to discover. In March 1945, Major General Curtis LeMay made a decision that reversed every operational assumption about B-29 employment. Instead of high-altitude precision attacks, he ordered low-altitude area incendiary raids against Japanese cities. The gamble was enormous. Flying at 5,000 to 8,000 feet eliminated the altitude advantage that made B-29s untouchable, removed most defensive guns to increase bomb loads, and concentrated hundreds of aircraft over single targets where Japanese fighters could mass against them. But LeMay calculated that Japanese night defenses were ineffective, and the devastation from massed incendiaries would exceed any losses sustained. The night of March 9th to 10th, 1945, validated LeMay's calculations with apocalyptic results. 334 B-29s attacked Tokyo, carrying incendiary clusters designed to ignite Japan's wooden cities. The resulting firestorm consumed 16 square miles of Tokyo, killed approximately 100,000 civilians in a single night, more than either atomic bombing would claim, created temperatures exceeding 1,800 degrees Fahrenheit that boiled water in canals, generated hurricane-force winds that pulled people into flames, and overwhelmed every firefighting resource the city possessed, while demonstrating that conventional weapons applied systematically could achieve destruction rivaling nuclear weapons. Japanese night fighters proved unable to effectively counter the low-altitude raids. Radar-equipped interceptors were rare and poorly trained. Most fighters lacked night fighting capability entirely. The few that engaged found themselves overwhelmed by the bomber stream's defensive firepower. Concentrated .50 caliber fire from multiple B-29s destroyed night fighters attempting attacks, while smoke and fire from burning cities created visual confusion that made navigation and target acquisition nearly impossible, reducing Japanese night defense to ineffective harassment rather than meaningful opposition. The Tokyo raid established a template for systematic urban destruction. 67 Japanese cities burned over the following months. By August 1945, B-29 incendiary campaigns had destroyed 178 square miles of urban area, rendered 8.5 million Japanese homeless, killed 330,000 civilians, and demonstrated that Japan possessed no defense against attacks that could systematically erase cities from existence. The burning cities terrified civilians, but strategic targets were next. While firebombing grabbed headlines, perhaps the most strategically devastating B-29 campaign received minimal publicity. Operation Starvation, the aerial mining of Japanese waters that strangled the nation's maritime commerce. Beginning in March 1945, B-29s dropped thousands of mines in straits, harbors, and shipping channels. Japan was an island nation completely dependent on maritime transport for food, raw materials, and inter-island commerce, making shipping lanes as vital as arteries, and American acoustic and magnetic mines transformed these essential waterways into death traps that Japanese minesweeping capabilities proved completely inadequate to counter. The Shimonoseki Strait, connecting Honshu and Kyushu, became the primary target. This narrow passage carried 75% of traffic between Japan's main islands. B-29s mined it so heavily that shipping through the strait essentially ceased by July 1945, severing coal shipments from Kyushu to Honshu's factories, cutting food supplies from agricultural regions to urban centers, and isolating Japanese industrial heartland from raw material sources in a blockade more effective than submarines could achieve, while risking no American lives except B-29 crews flying what were considered the safest missions of the war. The mining campaign's effectiveness shocked Japanese leadership. Conventional minesweeping techniques couldn't clear acoustic mines triggered by propeller noise or magnetic mines activated by steel hulls. By August 1945, Japanese shipping had been reduced to 10% of 1941 levels, not primarily from submarine warfare, but from mines that closed ports, blocked straits, and made coastal navigation suicidal, essentially landlocking an island nation and creating starvation conditions in cities as food shipments stopped and industrial collapse as factories received no raw materials. The psychological impact compounded physical devastation. Japanese civilians could see harbors full of idle ships, knew food was available elsewhere but couldn't reach them, and understood American technology had severed the maritime connections that made Japanese civilization possible. The mines represented a different kind of bombing, patient, invisible, and utterly effective at destroying not buildings, but the economic circulation that kept Japan functioning. Starving Japan's economy was methodical, but one target mattered most. The cascading effects of industrial destruction exceeded physical damage. Destroyed ball-bearing plants crippled aircraft production. Demolished steel mills halted shipbuilding. Wrecked chemical plants stopped ammunition manufacturing. Each precision strike created ripple effects through interconnected industrial systems, and Japan's concentrated manufacturing base made these surgical attacks devastatingly effective, where dispersed German industry had been more resilient, demonstrating that strategic bombing succeeded not through area destruction, but systematic targeting of irreplaceable capabilities. Even successful Japanese intercepts couldn't prevent August's horror. While area bombing destroyed cities and mining strangled commerce, B-29 precision strikes systematically destroyed specific industrial targets whose loss cascaded through Japan's entire war economy. Aircraft engine plants, ball-bearing factories, oil refineries, targets were chosen for maximum strategic impact. American intelligence identified bottlenecks where destroying single facilities would cripple entire production chains, and B-29 bombing accuracy using radar and visual techniques proved sufficient to destroy these pinpoint targets, despite Japanese attempts at dispersal, camouflage, and defensive concentration around critical installations. The Nakajima aircraft engine plants received repeated attention because they produced 60% of Japan's aircraft engines. Systematic B-29 raids destroyed manufacturing equipment, killed skilled workers, and forced production dispersal to small facilities that lacked tooling for precision work. Japanese aircraft engine production collapsed from 28,000 units annually to perhaps 11,000 in 1945, with quality deteriorating catastrophically as dispersed workshops assembled engines with improper tolerances, substitute materials, and inadequate testing, producing power plants that failed at rates making new aircraft as dangerous to pilots as enemy fire. Petroleum refineries and synthetic fuel plants became priority targets as American intelligence recognized Japan's oil vulnerability. B-29 precision attacks destroyed these irreplaceable facilities systematically. By June 1945, Japanese aviation fuel production had fallen 85% from peak output, leaving thousands of aircraft grounded not from combat losses, but fuel starvation, pilots unable to train, and defensive operations crippled by inability to fuel available aircraft, creating surreal situations where Japan possessed fighters but couldn't fly them. The cascading effects of industrial destruction exceeded physical damage. Destroyed ball-bearing plants crippled aircraft production, demolished steel mills halted shipbuilding, wrecked chemical plants stopped ammunition manufacturing. Each precision strike created ripple effects through interconnected industrial systems, and Japan's concentrated manufacturing base made these surgical attacks devastatingly effective, where dispersed German industry had been more resilient, demonstrating that strategic bombing succeeded not through area destruction, but systematic targeting of irreplaceable capabilities. Even successful Japanese intercepts couldn't prevent August's horror. On August 6, 1945, at 8:15 a.m., Colonel Paul Tibbets piloted Enola Gay over Hiroshima and released an atomic bomb from 31,000 feet. 43 seconds later, the explosion vaporized the city center, killed 70,000 to 80,000 instantly, and introduced warfare to the atomic age. The weapon represented apocalyptic destructive power condensed to a single bomb. One aircraft, one mission, one city erased that Japanese leadership initially couldn't comprehend, refusing to believe American claims about atomic weapons until reconnaissance confirmed unprecedented destruction came from a single explosion rather than massive conventional bombing. 3 days later, Boxcar dropped a second atomic bomb on Nagasaki, killing 40,000 to 75,000 and obliterating the city's industrial valley. The second attack within days demonstrated America possessed multiple atomic weapons and would continue using them, eliminating Japanese hopes that Hiroshima represented a prototype, requiring months to produce another, and forcing recognition that continued resistance meant systematic atomic destruction of every major city until nothing remained. The B-29's role as atomic delivery platform proved as important as the weapons themselves. Only the Superfortress possessed the range, altitude capability, payload capacity, and precision navigation required for atomic missions. Japanese air defenses that had struggled against conventional formations proved completely irrelevant against atomic attacks. Shooting down the bomber after weapon release wouldn't prevent detonation, and high-altitude delivery meant interceptors couldn't reach attack aircraft before bombs fell, creating unstoppable strategic weapons that defensive innovation couldn't counter. Emperor Hirohito cited the atomic bomb specifically in his August 15th surrender announcement, stating continued resistance against such weapons risked the total extinction of human civilization. The admission acknowledged that while Japan might have endured conventional bombing indefinitely through sheer determination, atomic weapons represented qualitatively different threat that made resistance not merely difficult, but civilizationally suicidal, demonstrating how technological terror succeeded where military defeat alone hadn't forced capitulation. The bombs ended the war, but the B-29's legacy extended far beyond. The B-29's ultimate impact transcended physical destruction. It shattered Japanese confidence and demonstrated American superiority so overwhelming that resistance became psychologically untenable. From November 1944 through August 1945, Superfortresses flew 34,790 sorties, dropped 104,000 tons of bombs, mined Japanese waters extensively, and delivered atomic weapons. This sustained campaign created daily reality where air raid sirens sounded constantly. Shelters provided no real safety, and American bombers operated beyond defensive reach, forcing Japanese civilians to recognize their military couldn't protect them, and the continued fighting only guaranteed prolonged suffering before inevitable defeat. The escalating nature of B-29 operations, high-altitude precision to low-altitude incendiaries, to mining to industrial strikes to atomic weapons, demonstrated American adaptability and unlimited offensive options. Each time Japanese defenses adapted to one tactic, Americans shifted to another, maintaining offensive initiative while Japanese defense remained perpetually reactive, creating psychological exhaustion where every defensive solution was countered by American tactical innovation that Japanese industry and training infrastructure couldn't match. The B-29 became symbolic of American industrial might that Japanese propaganda couldn't counter. Civilians saw hundreds of sophisticated bombers attacking simultaneously, while knowing Japan couldn't produce equivalent numbers or technology. The visual demonstration of American material superiority, silver formations stretching horizon to horizon, destroyed faith in ultimate victory more effectively than propaganda, forcing recognition that Japan was fighting an industrial power whose capacity exceeded Japanese understanding and whose bombing campaigns would continue indefinitely regardless of Japanese determination. Post-war assessments confirmed the B-29's strategic decisiveness. The firebombing, mining, and precision campaigns had destroyed Japan's ability to wage war effectively before atomic bombs fell. The Superfortress proved strategic bombing could succeed through systematic application against an enemy lacking defensive capabilities to counter high-altitude precision bombing, all-weather operations, and tactical flexibility, validating American air power doctrine that would dominate Cold War military strategy, and demonstrating technology combined with industrial capacity creates military advantages that tactical brilliance cannot overcome. The B-29 Superfortress systematically dismantled Japan's ability to resist through altitude advantages, technological superiority, and tactical flexibility Japanese defenses couldn't counter. From burning cities to strangled commerce to atomic annihilation, the Superfortress demonstrated that overwhelming technological and industrial superiority makes resistance futile regardless of determination. Japan faced a nightmare they couldn't wake from. Watch the next video for more untold stories on vintage planes.